Hey, Mayor, good morning. Did you want to go ahead and begin?
Good morning, guys. Yeah, go ahead, Cesar.
All right, 10-4. Everybody good to go live?
Yes, sir.
Good, great. Just real quick, as I guess, marching orders, if you will. Last thing we did was we looked at different percentages. We sent the tables so you saw different percentages of what they looked like, where they needed to be to cross-reference that. As we sat in here, we went over all the percentages and everything else, and we checked them category by category, and there were some discrepancies. But to keep it a flat, we sent it as they were. Today, what we can do is we can modify that worksheet however you need to come up with a desired final that is your desired ask, if you will. Once that's complete. That's kind of the objective of today, for the most part. Unless there's a different objective that you would like to discuss.
I mean, we've got a few things that we'd like to discuss, you know, on the soft money issue.
Okay.
And also, you mentioned discrepancies, and you know, we did find a discrepancy on one of the pay lines.
Excellent.
So, you know, we do want to.
We'll go to that one. Just let me know
So,
which one it is on the top that are labeled. If it's labeled 789, the percentage is on top. I can go to that same sheet.
It's Sergeant 3, the B level. It's darked out because there's no one in it currently. Year.
we ain't gone live yet, right?
Huh? No, we're not yet.
Okay.
But we will in a second. We're going to discuss the same thing.
No,
Here-
I know.
here-
I just.
Oh, we are live.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
year,
I'm sorry. We are live.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. I guess we can officially call the meeting to order.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. We can discuss it in which way. Good morning, everybody that's joining us virtually, or that's watching through YouTube or Zoom. Good morning to both sides of the panel. I'd like to recognize that our mayor, who is our presiding officer of this meeting, is not here physically, but he is joining us virtually via Zoom. We have residents available, our HR director, Kyle Hunter. If we could take a moment, everybody go around the room, introduce themselves.
My name's Todd Harrison. I'm with the Combined Law Enforcement Associations of Texas. The previous president of CLEAT for 11 years, a retired sergeant out of the city of Austin with over 30 years, and the director of field services filling in for John Kerr, who's on vacation.
Conan King, I'm the president of the Marque Police Association.
Kenneth Hernandez, Vice President of the Police Association.
Richard Garcia, member of the Police Officer Association.
Randall Aragon, Chief of Police.
Cesar Garcia, City Manager.
We'll go virtual.
Gus Knable, the outside city attorney.
Jennifer Earl, Admin Assistant for City Manager.
Susie Koo, Finance Director for City of Lamarck.
Keith Bell, Mayor.
Great. So we're gonna pick up where we left off. At the last meeting, we gonna read a brief recap of where we were, and then we'll go from there. We've already established that our first meeting was technically on July 6th, since the first one was meeting 0. We discussed that your request was the 5% per year for the next 3 years. The original counter that was essentially made was if budgetary, conditions apply, would be 4% over the next 3 years. And the way of doing that originally was by removing some stipends to try to get to that percentage due to our current budgetary constraints. We then asked, would you consider that to be in a scaled fashion? For those that may not understand what scaled means, if we did 5%, for example, just for the sake of numbers, it would then look like in a scale scenario, it'd be 4, 5, and then 6. So the average of them would still be 5. So everybody understands what that would look like. We looked at the citation comparison. We discussed at length the psychological services, and have all agreed, both sides agreed that that's something that we will be working on. At last turn, I believe, and if I'm wrong in what I'm about to say, correct me. You guys, Mr. King, Corporal King, you guys submitted that information over to Chief Aragon, who is now working with HR and all the necessary parties to try to put some type of RFP out or draft some type of stuff to get some information as to what that would look like going forward. We have a general idea of what that looks like. with the understanding that we probably will not have that in place by October 1 because of how long it would take to do for the vet that properly, but we are moving that forward and hope to have that done soon into the next fiscal year. Is that correct so far?
Yeah, my understanding was we were gonna create a committee to do that.
Yes, but first we have to vet those people, start getting some information on it so we can, whatever they give us, we can put together so we can get that committee together. So we need to get tangible information as to what we're looking for. So what does an RFP look like for that? Because it's not something that is very common amongst a lot of the other ones. We're going to research to see other cities that may have an RFP that we can borrow. And then at that time, we can sit back into an actual separate subcommittee designated however you would like to do that. But you guys will certainly have not just a voice, but probably the loudest voice having to do with that process. So it's understandable that that has to take place.
Yeah.
Sorry, going back to my notes, we're gonna John Kurt was to provide a list to chief. We're gonna add language on the contract to include a later date, side specific. We're gonna try to have up to 3 personnel on each side being represented of that committee. And the idea would be that would be bi-departmental or tri-departmental, meaning we would also include possibly somebody from the from fire to also be part of that process. Whether we did it together or separate, whatever it would be, but just for public safety in general. And that's a discussion we could have together at that time. But just and as a brief point there, when it has come up so far during discussion through our budget workshop, one thing that our council was very supportive of, they're very supportive of this initiative. So you have buy-in from staff, from council, obviously from yourselves. There's no question that it is something that we all agree on. It's just how we're gonna make it work and what we need to do next. Okay. Another request that was made was the sick and leave pool seeking change from dropping it from 300 to 160 hours. And then we talked about scaling that if indeed at that point budgetary constraints had to have us go so low that we would look at the possibility of scaling it in a lower fashion if we needed to. Are you understanding our budgetary constraints and saying that we'll do whatever we can to stretch that? Then the next meeting we had on the 27th. Another thing that was done was look into the payout of sick and vacation balances at time of promotion. Was another question that you brought up. Very, very poignant conversation that was said. Your current CBA is not equivalent to what the regular civilian employee gets at time of payout and so forth. So those are some things that we brought up, and I appreciate you doing that because it is good as looked at us to doing a citywide review of all of those policies. So the things that come up here don't just pertain to police, they do have effects and a trickle effect on other things. So thank you for bringing that up. That was very, very important. Thank you. Then at the next meeting we had on the July 27th, our goal then would be to see what it would take to get us close to, or as close to as we can to get to Texas City. Since it was the most closest geographically to us. And also one of the comps that was submitted on your list of comps. Chief brought up the possibility of using ARPA funding as a source of softening the blow in year 1. We did look at that possibility. There may be a possibility of doing that at some extent. However, the backlash to that is that only appears year for year 1. What does that do for you for year? So subsequent years. Will the budget have the strength to support that in years? The last thing we want to do is give a certain increase in year 1 if we can't support any other years and we're in a predicament after that. So we're still vetting that process, see how we could do that as we work through the budget. Obviously, we won't be able to tell you how reasonable that will be until we're done with the budget workshops. We've only completed three workshops so far. We still have one on Thursday, one on Monday, then we set the tax rates on the 15th and 29th, and then essentially we present a final budget first week of September. So our goal is to have this done here relatively soon. Obviously within this month to get this finalized. And then the last thing that we talked about was the possibility of a percentage of sales tax being used that could be incorporated for public safety. Gus, do you have any update on that? If there was any leniency towards that, possibly that Mr. Kerr brought up, of the ability of using a percentage of sales tax specifically for public safety?
I don't have an update on that right now.
Not a problem. If you continue researching, I know you're doing other stuff, but if you could please continue, I would appreciate that. That brings us to the point we were. After that meeting, actually, as subsequent part of that meeting, we sat here, we rolled up our sleeves and worked together to get to the percentage we needed to get close to where we were. With the understanding that even if we make these grave initiatives that you've never seen before and got to the percentage that you needed to be, we'll always be playing catch up, because it was brought to my attention that most of our neighboring cities average a set average of about a 4% increase per year anyways. So at that rate, it doesn't matter, right? We're still going to keep playing catch up. So this is just to get us the first phase to try to catch up at a bigger leap. We're not going to take a regular step. We're trying to take a bigger leap to try to get there, to get a little bit closer. We're all on the same page on that, we can proceed.
Yes.
Okay. So when we last met, we worked on the spreadsheet, and I understand you have an update on one of the spreadsheets.
Yes, sir. If you look at the sergeant rank for Sergeant 3, which is the B step, the 7% pay raise looks proper. The 8% isn't, and the 9%, something wonky happened.
Okay, hold on,
Because-
for a second.
yeah.
I'm gonna pull, for the record, I'm gonna pull this up as we're talking about it.
Yeah.
So we can look at that. One of the things that I will say that we're not gonna release now, obviously for the sake of the
Yeah.
fact that we're here, I don't have the capability of releasing what I'm working on right here onto the screen for everybody to share, but you're more than welcome to look over my shoulder, sit next to me, whatever you want. Okay. I want to make sure we're looking at the page that reads, at the top that reads 789, correct?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. And we're looking at which rank?
Sergeant 3.
Sergeant 3, got it? Okay. And which year or which percentage is the mistake on?
23 and 24.
I see a mistake here that occurred already. This is not right. This should be 7. Should be 7 or 8.
Yeah, it looks like they didn't get changed. Well,
From the
actually,
previous page. They
Yeah.
were brought over from the 5, 6, 7.
yeah, or the 4, 5, 6.
4, 5, 6, correct. Sorry. All right.
All three of them.
Those 3 years for the incumbent have been taken care of. Which other changes do you have? Or edits? Susie, I'm sorry, for the sake of the spreadsheet, that was on the last copy of the spreadsheet, the one labeled 8% at the bottom, 8% scaled. I'll go back and change it on the other ones as well, but on the 8% scale, I did not, I copied the formulas over incorrectly, and I've now corrected them. I'll share this copy with everybody as well.
Thank you. Yes, because I don't think I have that spreadsheet. But I'll get with Jennifer to get it.
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna forward it to you right now. It was emailed to you on the 1st at 4:38, if I'm not mistaken, but I will send you another copy right now.
Oh, okay. All
I
right.
won't have the changes I'm working on as we speak, because we're still working on, but at least you'll have the working copy that we have.
Okay.
Inbox in just a second.
I think that's.
Thank you.
Problem, man.
That was the only step I noticed any issues with.
Okay. Is there anything else that's different that or were mistakes? And thank you for catching that. I apologize. I missed one.
No, sir, I did not see any other.
Excellent. Now that those corrections have been made, the numbers at the bottom reflect exactly what the numbers are. Now, my question to you guys is, and based on the information you provided us, what I was working more with the Corporal Human. Yeah, Corporal Human.
Josh.
I was working more with
Where was he sitting?
Human. It was here. It was Human.
Officer.
Obviously,
Officer,
I'm sorry, I
yeah,
got the rank
officer.
wrong. In doing that, we went over one of the things we need to do now, because one of the projections that we did by rank, just because we're putting these percentages, looks like we went out, Kyle. Okay, one of the thing we do in our percentages is some of the ranks don't fall in line in comparison to some of the other cities. So if you guys want to pull out the comparison sheet that we had.
Which comparison sheet are we?
It was the one that, I want to say it was blue and red on the front. I think it's that one right there. That one, I think you have your fingers on it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
I've got the,
The survey?
The survey that you use for your costs. Okay, what I'd like to now look at or see is how do those fall in line with.
we're gonna do math.
And I'm here to help. Basically, no, really, you don't necessarily have to do too much. I wanted you guys, if you can, for the sake of the record, at our current sheet that we have now, right? Current set of sheets that we have now. How does our proposed sheet line up with some of those comps? Because I think for the officer rates, it was in line now, what we're proposing. I believe for the corporal rates, we were in line. I believe for the sergeant rates, we were a touch above. And the lieutenants, we were a lot higher, but if you could compare. And if we want, we could take a break to do that, so we can roll up our sleeves. We can do it here, whatever everybody prefers. Also, does anybody need a water? Water for anybody? Everybody good?
I'm good, thank
I'm
you.
good, thank you.
Here, come on, look at my computer. There you go.
I don't have the comparison. I have that, but I don't have the comparison.
Sure.
Actually,
Oh, yeah.
Kyle, do you have the ability to copy? Can you run us a couple of copies of this, please?
Thank you, sir.
This, it will be black and white.
It's fine.
That's all right.
It'll be okay as long as all the print is white.
It's more gray.
How many copies do you want?
Great.
Yeah,
Please.
Chief, do you need a copy of it?
4.
Sorry, for Kyle. We'll still need that.
I haven't seen the way the signatures. I know you sent me one. You sent me one, I haven't seen it.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Do you need a copy of that spreadsheet as well?
Yeah, I'd like it.
Okay.
Is your original? Or before that, or here's a copy? No, yeah.
Mr. Manager, I do want to congratulate y'all on having a copier in the council room.
We can thank IT for that. We can thank,
It shortens the timeline.
we can thank IT for his, inclusiveness and thinking of having that in here. 'Cause that is, I agree with you completely.
It's money.
That is most helpful, saves time, saves effort.
I'll get you that all.
Essentially, if any changes would be made to the current one that we have, and you wanted to make changes different by rank, if you will. So let's say, I don't know, hypothetically, 4% for lieutenants, 5% for sergeants, 6% for corporals, 7 for officers. Then we would create another spreadsheet now together and create that as such. And we'll call it the hybrid version. Assuming that all the numbers are the same, you don't make any errors. And again, whatever changes we finish with today, I will make sure that we copy and share with everybody as well. That's on the email chain. If I leave anybody out, please just share it amongst each other.
Yeah, it's, yes.
Okay, so which one do we want to review first? Officer?
Yes, sir, let's start with that.
All right, so according to officer right now, we'll go to, I guess we'll call it officer 1, right? The officer position 1,
Mhm.
okay? Currently, right now, we show 54,109,
Yes, sir.
okay? And if we look, if we're gonna use. How's our highlighter of it? Going handy. Thank you. If we're gonna use Texas City as our marker for right now, what that shows is we're roughly $2,000 under, $2,200 under. Does everybody follow that so far? That makes sense.
I just, yeah, I won't say no.
I'll take the same one. I'm from Austin. I'll let you decide, sir.
It'll make it easier for others. You put the other thing, you need one.
Chief, you weren't one this pink one, were you?
We're comparing
Yeah.
this.
Yes, sir.
to us, so we're.
Yes, sir. So what's on the table?
56,
56, 352.
That's now.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're comparing that right now. We're gonna do that for both. Yes, yeah. Did you guys, are you guys okay doing this caucus, the unified caucus together?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is just part of the negotiation.
Not just making sure
Yeah.
for sakes of, okay. So right now, so we're all speaking in the facts and speaking the same things. We show 54,109.12 as our current rate for an officer 1. We all agree on that.
Yes.
Then we show Texas City's current rate right now for an officer 1, a comparable officer 1 is 65,19.
Yes.
So effectively, we're essentially $6,400 under for that rank.
All right, so I just for comparison purposes,
Yes, sir.
we're comparing an officer that's been here a year with Texas City's minimum officer. And
Unless you tell me differently.
well, so where we don't have a recruit level, when an officer comes in, they start out at our base pay.
Is that officer
That's
0?
Officer 0, and they're there for a year. Once they hit their year, they go to officer 1. So in reality, you're not talking about a starting officer, you're talking about an officer that's beginning year 2
Okay.
of experience with the department.
So Corporal King, to that point, if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, on our sheet, our officer 0 is more comparable to their recruit.
It should be comparable.
An officer 0 is their recruit,
Well,
or just for comparison basis, so we know what math we're doing.
to be honest, I don't know how Texas City classifies a recruit.
Okay.
But we did have recruits at one point you know, where the city was hiring people that weren't certified and sending them through academies and stuff. Those were paid as recruits because they weren't certified.
Okay.
So if Texas City bases their recruit as the same principal, then we're comparing a uncertified person to a certified position. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. So for the sake of comparison reasons, so we know what we're comparing our officer 013579. How would that compare to their, on what's the table that you presented? How do we compare with recruit, minimum, midpoint, and maximum?
I think in order to actually decide on which one, I think we really need to figure out exactly what recruit really means for Texas City.
Okay.
You know, whereas, because we don't have a recruit pay,
Okay.
you know, we have a starting officer pay, which is.
So I guess we could table officer then until we get that figured out. The whole officer, because essentially we have 0, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11,
13.
13, 15. That's way too many. 0, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15. So that's, we have 9 categories, but the table you've shown us for officer only has technically 4, which are recruit, minimum, midpoint, and maximum. So to answer to, I just want to know for comparison reasons what we're comparing to. What we need to decide is which one we're going to compare those to. If we're going to draw a midpoint between those to create scaled numbers in between, just for the sake of comparison, so we can get to where we want to go. How would you guys like to do that? We have 9 categories, they have 4. Where's our comparison point is what I'm looking for.
That's gonna take financial accountant to figure, I mean,
Well, I mean, we could figure out
doing
the
that
math
right.
in between. We could just divide it evenly and go from there. We could technically say, okay, they have 4 points and we'll just draw the averages between the points and get as close as possible. I mean, it's not anything major to do. It's more of asking the question where you want. And if we want to come back to officer, we can go straight to corporal if you'd like.
Let's,
Right, but then from the table that you did share with us, maybe we're gonna use Taylor, Live Oak, and Crowley. We'll take those all together, provide an average of those 3, and then come up with our own comparison based on those, because out of those 3, didn't we say that Live Oak was the closest comparison to us? Okay, so having said that, we're currently paying higher than Live Oak. So I want to make sure that now we're to the point of, we've done the math of what we would look like at certain increases. Now we have to find out what we're comparing to compare apples to apples.
In when Live Oak's got the same, about the same population, same size
yeah,
staff, and even their crime rate's a little bit lower than ours.
So that is a considerable
That's
comp.
It's
That's
pretty
a
good
good
comp.
comp.
And I did the work. Yes.
So basically what this is starting to look like, guys, gentlemen, is that in the absence of another comp to actually look at, to base ourselves by, we may have to have different percentages for different ranks to get us to where we need to be. Now, how that plays into the whole scale of things, that's for us to figure out the math on. And I'm really ready and engaged to do that
I
through.
am familiar with Alvin because I did their contract.
Okay,
Their recruit pay is for the first 6 months while they're in the academy and getting trained. And then once they get past that 6 months, then they go to the minimum.
Mhm.
okay, but would we be favorable to? Would we be favorable at this point right now to use Alvin then as a comparison for the sake of this conversation? Because right now our conversation has been to compare with Texas City. So we're willing to get to where we need to be, but we need some guidance from you guys as to where you'd like us to look at first.
Can we take a short caucus?
Oh, absolutely. We are in, this is your time. But before we take the caucus, I'd like to first make sure that we're on the same page as to what we're looking to do. And if we could go over the several things we're gonna do, so we don't have to take several back and forth, if we could do that real quick before we go. So I want to find out, one, Chief, and I'm speaking correctly, please let me know. One, where are we with which we're gonna go by? Two, how do our categories, in this case, we have 9 different officer categories based on what we have presented to us, how that's gonna look. So we can then now work together to create a hybrid presentation as to where we want to be.
Can I say this? Vijay?
Sir.
You know, looking at this, we've got a lot of these different cities and they're all different populations, crime rates. So our biggest loss has been to our neighboring city is Texas City. And I know they're bigger than us and their crime rates, you know, a little bit less than us. But I think that's where we've been training for. We're the training ground for Texas City right now. I'm losing another officer in the next couple of weeks to Texas City. They're gonna live here. They're not gonna move to Alvin. They're not gonna move to Live Oak. They're gonna move to Texas City, which is just across the street. So I think we need to focus in on Texas City. We could be here for 2 months to figuring this out. You need a rocket scientist to figure this out. I think that's the one, my feelings, that's what we need to look at. And I see a lot of nodding over there, and I think you agree with me.
Certainly, but in the absence of a rocket scientist, the 6 of us and, you know, all the brain power we have joining us through our staff and so forth, we're gonna have to figure it out. So at this point,
And I think,
I just want to know what we're comparing to. So we have an actual number to do so.
I actually kind of agree with the chief. Here's who you have to compare yourself with. Who's taking your people and who's getting the people you should be getting. And that's your locals.
Certainly.
Taylor, you know, Addison, Crawley, you know, Galveston, maybe a little bit. But those different parts of the state aren't getting your homegrown talent you should be keeping.
They're walking across the street and talking about people saying, I want you.
Well, certainly, and Chief, to your point, I'm not in any which way saying not. I just want to know what we're comparing towards.
But what we used on the, what we did on the ones that are further away, we used population.
Certainly,
So they're closer to you.
that's understandable. We have folks that are being recruited by some places that are on this list.
Oh, yeah.
So
recruiting.
Alvin is not
Everybody,
like a bad comparison. We have,
everybody all over is suffering from the same
Yes.
malady
Right.
that's in Lamar. Everybody's short and everybody's scrambling to get qualified applicants
Mhm.
all over.
So Chief, with all due respect, I think, yes, Texas City is probably the biggest culprit right now, but everybody on this list
Yeah.
is definitely looking to recruit our talent, especially if they're currently paying more than we are.
Yes.
So if that's okay, we can take that caucus, we can come back, and what we're looking for is what are we comparing it from the sheet that you provided towards? And if we need to create something, and what I mean by that, in the absence of anything between recruit and minimum, let's just say we're gonna call recruit, for the sake of conversation, we're gonna call recruit equivalent to our officer 0. And we're gonna call minimum equivalent to our officer 3, for example. Then in between, we divide those 2 numbers and create a number between, and that would be equivalent to our officer 1. And if we take that route, we'll get close to where we're trying to be. If we can agree on that, then we'll have a good comparison to try to gauge where we're going.
That's why we want to caucus. We want to make sure.
As long as we know what we're going to accomplish during that time, if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
We'll be right back.
Excellent. Thank you all. Well, how much? 15, 10 minutes? What do you want?
Probably 10 minutes or less.
10 minutes. Appreciate it. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Is it afternoon yet? No, it's still morning. We're back. We've taken a short caucus and we're ready to conclude or proceed with the meeting. Who'd like to go first? Chief, I know you had something you wanted to say.
I mean, I talked it over with Caesar, city manager, and you know, we had to roll back. Our budget's been cut 600,000. And we're bare bones, and I know getting this parity is very important. But when you look at the reality of where's the money going to come from, my overall feelings, I mean, of course, the 7, 8, 9 and the parity is very it sounds good, but when you come down to reality check, there's just a certain amount that the city can afford. And obviously, I got to take a balanced approach to this managing process. I got to look after my officers. I got to look after the city also. And I'm just saying, I know you wanted 555. It's going to be hard for us to do anything after talking to Caesar about the financial side. I was thinking ARPA could be used for this. And it's not sustaining beyond the first year. I know it's $4.3 million. We need a lot of infrastructure. We need a lot of, which includes sewage, water, roads, you name it. But we're not guaranteed ARPA for any time past this. So what I'm trying to say is, you wanted a lot of stipends, and I think it's a $50 stipend for almost everything an officer can do. Increasing the SRT money, increasing the certificate pay, and a few other things. But looking at reality, there's just so much in the bank that we can afford, the city. And I'm just saying, it's unrealistic on some of the things that we'd like to do, I'd like to do. And I would say on the stipend side, I hate to have the city remove stipends that we've already received. I would just say leave everything the way it is, except one stipend is the residential pay. And you all said it, and I said it. I would say leave it maybe as a grandfather, because people I hear bought a house based on the residents. But let's save the city that money for the future, because as you know, and I know, living in a city where you made an arrest the day before and you're walking in Walmart with your kiddos in the basket, it's kind of a safety issue. And I could see, you know, not wanting to live in the city where you police. And that's something a lot of citizens don't understand, that they say, let's attract everybody to live here. But there's an issue there that you got to be a cop to understand. I bumped into people that I arrested for a felony a week before in a supermarket with my 2 kids. And I was, you know, kind of worried. So I'm thinking the numbers that I'd like to make sure you get, it's just unrealistic. And we got to have a reality check on this. So I know you wanted 555, 234 might be better, or something around that. I wish you can get 7, 8, 9, but looking at the figures, it's not there. The money's not there. Our budget would be reduced even more than it is now. So I think we need to look at that. Keep the stipends the same, except residential, remove that, grandfather the people that are already in there. Don't forget SRT, we get $200 a month. Plus you get overtime. Texas City gets $50 a month for their SWAT team totally. Even their maintenance of uniform pay is less. We're paying $200 for a detective. You know, I've been a detective for many years. It's a pretty cush job as far as, you know, not wearing the body armor and day shift and off weekends. And they're getting $200 for being a detective besides all the other overtime. So that's okay. Leave it as it is. But let's be realistic and work out something. I'd love us to be getting paid what Texas City gets paid. You know that. But we don't have the bank. It's not in there. That's something we need to think about. And I just wish we could use the ARPA, but once again, it's good for this year, but your next year, you wouldn't get it because there wouldn't be any money to pay it. So let's think about that. Okay.
If I can also, Chief, to your point, for sake of negotiation, just sake of just understanding. A lot of things that we offer are different than some of these comparable cities, since we are using Texas City as our base comparison for all the reasons we've already stated. Can I ask you guys to please work together to do a comparison of the stipends, meaning what do we pay for SWAT? What do they pay for SWAT? What do we pay for residential? Just to tabulate what that is and what the effects are. Can we look into doing that, please? I think that's very important. And again, pardon my not understanding of that. Is that something difficult to do? Is that available maybe on their website? If you tell me where their website is and where it is on our website, I don't mind doing it very quickly. Just let me know.
We're looking to see if we can locate that right now.
If you could just share that, we could tabulate that, and so when we create the final, we could just go from there.
Their education pay and certificate pay is about like ours. SWAT team, they get $50 a month. Their maintenance of uniforms, they get it annually. We get it, it's 85, I think it's that now. Detectives don't get anything special. They just get the normal salary. So, and we're paying 200 above that. They don't have residential pay. That's about it as far as I can see. So we're paying SRT 200. We got the intermediate, we got the certificate pay, we got the education pay, we got the detectives getting 200, 250 for
We could just
residential.
literally list how we've done with this. Just list. And there might be some that they offer that we don't offer, there might be some that we offer, they don't offer, then obviously the comparison will be blank. But just list all the different things that are being offered is what I'm asking, I guess, if you will, compare.
Right.
So what are all the different stipends being offered? And then a column that says, what does Marque offer for that particular stipend? What does Texas City offer for that particular stipend? So we can have a guesstimate, a comparison of the two. Maybe there's stipends that are offered other places that we might want to consider adding. That we may have stipends that others don't offer that we may want to consider removing. That's part of the negotiation, and I think that's important as we move forward, because that's that's something that is not really disclosed. We talked about having an off-duty pay. In case somebody wants to do that. Do you want to include that there now? Whatever it is that you want to do. Let's say it's a square. All right, we're going to say for this rank, it's this much, for this rank, it's this much, for this rank, it's this much. Whatever that would be. But since that is something new and different, may I ask that what was the results of your meeting, of your break to caucus?
We agreed with you to use Texas City as a comparable and for to use Officer Zero for the recruits.
Okay,
So
so
it'd be year one as a minimum.
what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into Excel talk. I'm going to create a copy of the sheet that we've been working on, and you'll have this. And I'm gonna label it. I'm gonna rename it to read as per, what's today, 8-3 meeting. 8-3. Okay. And then now we can play with that. So we've agreed that their officer, make sure I'm doing this correctly. Their recruit is our Officer Zero, right?
Yes,
So Texas City recruit equals our Marque Officer Zero. Okay. All right. Our Officer One is equivalent to their what?
they're to the minimum.
Are you gonna go in between that? Meaning, is Officer One gonna be the difference between their recruit and their minimum, since they have 4 categories and you present 9?
No, they have their recruit category.
Mhm.
Our officer zeros are recruit. Officer one is their minimum, because that's our lowest above the recruit level. Then for medium, you cop out at 15, that would be officer 7 for midpoint, and then maximum will be officer 15.
I'm writing this all down for the sake of, to match what we have. 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and the last one is 15. So what are we comparing officer 1 to again? Theirs is minimum,
Minimum.
which is the 6519. What amount are we comparing our officer 3 to?
Can you repeat the value you were comparing it to?
Their minimum is 60,519. Their recruit is 56,352. So what are you comparing officer 3 to?
Officer 3 just falls in the middle of where they're all at. That's the, and I didn't do the salary survey. That's,
I just need to fill in the blank what we're comparing R 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15 to. I think one thing we could clearly say that 15 would be their maximum, right?
maximum.
Okay, so their max, which would be 86,420.
Mhm.
We agree with that, right?
That's correct.
All right, so the midpoint between 1 and 15 there is 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Their minimum falls between our 7 and our 9. You following me?
Mhm.
So their minimum, their midpoint of 73,470 is this point, 73,470. So to mathematically get a fairness equation in there, we just have to take those numbers and provide them as such. So three, 4, 70 minus 65, 9 equals. The difference between those two is 12,951. I took 73,470 and subtracted 6,519. Does everybody follow so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So the difference between those is 12,951. So now we need to just take that number and divide it evenly amongst those two numbers to where we're going to get to that point, but it's really 2.5 difference because of that. So 5. Kyle, could you give me a hand? Could you give me a hand a second? I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what I did. I did it. I did it. She got closer and it started working. Sorry. Yeah. All right. All right, let's do this. 6,519. Equivalent to seven, 5, 6, 11, 13, 15. I'm trying to be incremental here. Okay, so for the sake of math, what I did is I took our, let's just write this in, their zero, we agree, our zero is their recruit, right? We agreed on that,
Yes,
correct? Okay. So I took our officer ranks and I filled them in, I did proportionate from their minimum. So their officer one is at 65,190. And then I put their maximum at the 86,420. Then what I did is I calculated essentially between class rankings and increases, if you will, 5% going up each year as to what that would equate to get us as close as possible to where we want to be. Okay. And I'm off, but not by too much. So I'm off by give or take for the maximum. I'm under by about $1,000. Okay, 1,300 as we relate it right now. So whatever we decide to do, but that's about as close as I can get it for the sake of time. So now we have a comparable what it should be per year. Would anybody like to come on this side of the table and check my math? Actually, it's not my math, it's the computer's math. I just plugged in percentages. So now we have a comparison that gets us close. I mean, I could, if you want me to split decimal points, I can get it pretty close. But basically now our one compared to their one is at the 65,190. Our year 15 is at 85,156.31, roughly $1,300 less than them. Is that fair enough for us to start with now? Mind you, having said that, your current maximum right now, which you only have one person in that situation, is 78,861. So if you agree to this, this would bump them from 78,861 to 85,156. It's not quite there, but pretty doggone close for the sake of math. We agree with that, we can proceed with the comparisons.
So our starting, our recruit would be almost the same as,
It would be the same.
yes.
Everything would be
A new
0 and 1 would be the same.
A new
and-
officer starts.
Right, and the proportions would be pretty close. I mean, I've gotten it pretty close mathematically where they would be. So for example, Kyle, is there a way I can share this screen on there? I would have to plug into it.
the Zoom.
I could join the Zoom.
Join the Zoom. Just
They would show.
mute your speakers on a computer.
I'll just hide that column. Let me hide the column of the names.
Right.
Okay, so it's no names. So let's go here. I'll hide that. And then I can go to my calendar and join. Right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's do that. That way we can see it on the screen. Is that better? All right. Feel like I'm one of those old school movie people, projector people. All right, here we go. CBA. How do I join the Zoom link? I don't have a link in my invite. Do I have to just go to the city's website?
No.
Thank you. That, I think that way you can see a clearer picture if you want of what we're doing. Yeah, as soon as you send me the invite, I'm gonna do it. So, how do I do this? Let me add a row here.
Are you on?
Yes, sir. I'm getting my emails. Yeah, he's gonna send me the Zoom link and then I'll be able to do it. Just a second. Please hold. I think we're getting somewhere. Got it. I know it doesn't seem that way, but we're making a lot of progress. Promise. The way I hear it, I think we're making.
Recording in progress.
I gotta mute myself, right? Let me turn my volume. My volume. all the
All
way.
your stuff.
Share screen. Okay. Okay, great. Let me zoom that in so everybody can see it. Modern technology, gotta love it, right? Right. How do I hide this? There we go. This out of the way.
You know,
No, not yet. I think I already hit the columns. I just need to make sure that I'm doing what I'm doing right. Guys, just for the sake of a couple of minutes here, I'm gonna minimize this so I can do what I gotta do. Give me a second. Let's make this bigger. All right, what I'm zooming in on, one, I've hidden the names for the sake of everybody's privacy. What I'm zooming in on, minus a couple errors that I gotta just correct here. Did anybody see that? Do we need it bigger? Does that help? We're gonna focus just on officer pay. And essentially, so what I did on this sheet, I literally put 0, this is officer 0, all the way through 15. This 15 represents what their current rate is, but for the sake of the 5% increase, what I did is I took this percentage, this flat rate, bounced it over, then I took what their 1 is, and I essentially increased it by 5% incrementally each rank that went up. If you notice the formula here on the top, 5% to show how the increase would get, and that's how I'm off by $1,300. But for the sake of conversation, I just did it incrementally to get to there, so it was proportionate. Everybody get that so far? Okay. Then as I go over here, what I've done now is I've created a comp column. I created a column here at the top that basically just says comp for the sake of officers. We can compare. So at officer 0 right now, our officer 0 makes 5227.04. Under this that we're at the 789 proportion, since we're looking at this, if we were to approve 789 in some crazy way, if we could afford it, it would equate to our officer 0 would make 55,688.93 in comparison to their 56,352. So in year 1, that's where they would be. If you notice in year 2, they would be higher than that rate. Everybody see where we're going with that? Now, even if I took this number and I did incremental what they're, I believe, averaging a 4% increase, for the sake of what we're doing, I can take this number. Open parentheses. This times 1.04%, and I believe they're doing a 4% increase. They would increase their recruit to 58,606, but this rate that we're showing we would still be higher than them. So by year 2 of this current plan, we would be, this position, rank 0, would be $2,000 roughly. What is that? $1,500 higher than their current recruit 0, incorporating their 4% increase. Does everybody follow me so far?
So. Column K,
Yes, sir.
who is that?
Okay. Column K, what I did is I did the math to say right now, present year, they're paying their recruit 0 56,352.
Okay,
If Texas City were to do a 4% increase, assuming, because you've told me that strategically they've done the 4% increase, next year they'll be at 58,606. Right? That's what I've got so far, right?
okay.
What I'm saying is that we would then be on pace to exceed their recruit 0 salary.
So that's,
Because 56, no, you're saying no.
I'm
Okay,
saying no.
no, okay, correct me.
And the reason being is you're basing it off of numbers that we're already gonna see an increase on.
So here's my question. All right, let me do this for the sake of this conversation. 56,352 is what they're making in 21-22, or what they're gonna make in 22-23?
I'm sorry, what number?
56, what you compared, what you shared with us as their recruit 0, the 56,352. Is that what they're making this year?
That's their current pay
Current.
as of today.
As of today. So what you're saying is that in October 1, in a couple of months, they're going to go up from 4% from that.
you're getting 4%.
Okay.
Yes.
So
So yes, we'll see an increase, but they're also seeing an increase.
okay, all right.
Does that make sense?
So I can't take this number as such. So here's what I got to do. Take this number. So increase this number times 1.04 here from this number and hit enter. So here we go. So in year one, then having said that, in year one, our recruit zero, so right now, okay, let me take that back. Right now, our recruit zero makes 52,027, their recruit makes 56,352.
Okay.
Which means if we were to go with this scenario of 789, October 1, their recruit will make 58,606. And what we're proposing at the 789 would get us to 55,668.
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay. So now what I would have to do is continue this table over to show how we would incrementally.
But I thought 789 was not doable.
We're not worried about what's doable right now because the decision has to come from them. We're just trying to show what our pay plan would. I'm trying to get them
Yes.
to get their ask correctly, basically. I'm trying to get your ask, because if you go 555, it's not going to get you to your new goal that's been presented to match Texas City. We can scratch this right now. If you guys go 555, we're done because you've already agreed to 555 and a 456 scaled plan. If that's your ask, that's your ask. But I think you're trying to curtail your ask to match this and see if your current ask matches that. Even if you went 555, and I'll go for the sake of this math.
The fourth.
456
Yeah,
I have it.
I've got it. I just had it.
at 456, which is on your screen now.
I got it right here.
Oh, sorry. Let me hide these names. I apologize.
It's all right.
All right. So at 456, so everybody can see clearly. At 456, this is what we're at. So let's look at our plan of what that looks like. That means is 54,108 will still be less than this year's current rate. Okay, if I were to add a column here, I would take their current rate of 56,352 and multiply it by 4%. Again, saying that you're telling me that they're doing, and this is what their number is. So we would still be 4,000 behind. I would then have to come over here to these columns and do the same, sorry,
The 5 and the 6.
for the other years to get a real comparison. So let me do insert here. Over, and let me do it insert here. Okay. So if I go here, I now have to take equals sum of this cell times 1.14 equals.
They only
sum-
had a 2-year deal. So.
Huh?
There's only for 22 and 23.
So we don't know if they're gonna keep going up 4% or not. Okay, so for the sake of this exercise, we can only look at those 2 years, what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
I can tell you historically, they pretty much done the 4s, but we all know that's subject to change.
So basically what I'm saying is right now, for officer 0, we're at 52, they're at 56. Next year, if we go with this current plan that's on the screen now at the 456 scaled, they will go to 58,578. We will be at, assuming we approve this, at 54,108.
Mhm.
Okay, so this plan. Basically, I can do this sheet for you if you'd like to help you prepare for this better, but I need to know what your
Then
curtailed ask would be.
in year 2, we go to 56, 8.
813, yes, sir. Sorry, let me blow this up a little bit.
So we're shortening the gap down a little.
You're every year,
Yeah,
as long as we increase at a higher rate than they
Yes.
do, then yes. But the problem is because this year, 4%, you're gonna match their increase.
yeah.
Next year, you're gonna catch up little by little, and if you keep this subsequently going up, then that's when that change could occur. So, hence where we are. My question is what would you like me to help you curtail your ask to? Because on this sheet at the 789, I can do the same exercise here and do those increases there if you like. Oh, sorry. Let me switch. Thank you. All right, it was this one. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I know, but just for the sake of what we're doing.
Can we caucus for a moment?
Certainly. CBA is requested for a caucus. We'd like to take a short break. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. I went ahead and took the liberty of working on the sheet when you guys were out. And I've looked at what the comp looks for the next 2 years since their current base is only for 2 years, right? You can't assume they're gonna do anything extra. So what I've done now is I've added a column here as well. So currently, right now, these are the comparable rates by rank through officer only. We went through current rank, what we currently pay. But right now, this is the difference. This is that situation, okay? If you want to go one further. And I can do a formula to subtract the difference between the two. So now we can look at this, again, comparing the difference, how much more certain rank by year makes. Sorry, that was not supposed to have those lines there. I apologize. I can clean this up later and make it pretty. Those are pretty nice. All right, so that's where we're at. So now, thank you. So now we look and say, this is where they're currently at for this rank, and this is by rank all the way through, up and up. Is that visible? Do you want me to zoom it up more? Does that help? So this is by rank, what the rate is now, what we're paying now for this rank, and what the difference is. So what I can now show is the difference being what it is that we're supporting.
What grade is that?
I'm sorry?
That at 7, 8, 9?
This is right now looking at the 789 sheet, the 789 sheet. So this is the difference right now. Okay. Now, we have calculated this difference in the subsequent columns to read what the difference would be in our current stuff. But right now, I'm going to read this difference versus TC. Okay. This is how much each one of these ranks, they pay more than us by rank. Okay. Now, with the current plan that you have, this is this minus this. You will notice that we are incrementally trying to bridge that gap and make it smaller. Okay. This will be the difference between versus Texas City. All right. I could work the scenario assuming that they continue with a 5%, but if you notice, right now, look at the difference. We're trying to get there, right? We're getting there in some capacity.
Yes.
At 0, this is the difference right now. If you were to institute this plan, that would be the difference from what they're paying versus what we pay. If you'd like me to, I can continue working on the rest of this while you tell me what you would like to, what the result of your caucus was.
There was a little bit of confusion on our team.
Certainly.
And why are we still working on the 789 when y'all have already said that's undoable? It's untenable.
We've been asked to look at what the comparisons are. And we've been asked and tasked to make sure we bring that to council as to what it'll look like regardless of what the situation we're in. What we're trying to do is we're trying to explain very clearly what the difference are and what it would take to get us there. Now, the wherewithal to get there is on us, the onus, and how we would do it if we're able to. If not, it's easier to then say, look, we can't do 7, 8, 9, but we could do 4.5, 5, and 5.5 for the sake of conversation. But you won't know. I'm trying to help curtail your offer, your request. If you want to go back to make your ask to be 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, whatever you ask me to do, I just want to clean the spreadsheet up so I can more
Honestly,
accurately show the difference.
honestly, our team caucused outside. If we keep the current stipends as they are now, we'll agree to modifying the residency pay that anyone hired after October the 1st is no longer qualified for it, as long as the others are grandfathered in.
Mhm.
And our original ask was for 555, which is a 15% pay raise. Then we would be happy with the compensation.
So I would like to just take note of what you
Big
just said.
deal.
if you don't mind,
Can
may
I
I?
say something, Steve?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the stipends would stay the same. Residency. Nix that after October first for only for grandfather. Okay, and the 555. So I guess Caesar needs to be looking at what does it look like? I
Yeah.
mean, because look, like I said, Todd and crew,
Residential.
we don't have it. And if you know what's going to do, if anything, any more that we give, it's going to come out of our budget. So Kona's not going to have uniforms. Or he's going to have to stop his driving. I'm
No,
serious.
And
I've already told him-
Disagree.
Let me tell you something. I told the manager, but I didn't say it at the budget meeting the other day. We're down 13%. We're down 5 officers. When we lose 7, we're going to be up to 20%. And thanks to the community who voted, 72% voted for the tax rollback. There's got to be a crunch. You know, and we all know, we can't keep producing at 100% when you're down 25%, right? Am I right? So I want to have to cut and tell the city manager that I've got to stop doing certain things. Sergeant Garcia is going to have to travel 20% less on the street. They don't want to hear that. No one wants to hear that. I mean, they're saying we're not doing enough now. So when I tell Sergeant Garcia that your shift, and he's going to ask me, I know, Richard, what do you mean by 20%? I said, figure out the time you're on the street and 20% stay in the building more. That's you know, the best I can get.
Chief, if I may, I just want to move this thing forward as fast as possible here. We're trying to keep the stipends as they are, delete the residency moving forward. So anybody who has it now
Right.
is grandfathered in and so forth. What was the rest of your ask? Go to 555 or
Yes, sir.
would you consider 456? I guess.
Yes, sir, we would.
Okay.
So ultimately 555. But in consideration, a scaled 456 would work.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you're saying? Okay, thank you.
There you go.
Because we
All right.
realize there's financial constraints on the
Yeah.
city.
Not a problem. Now, here's my question, and I'll ask this openly. And this is for, just to ask this on the record. Is that gonna prevent people from getting poached from our police department?
Probably
No.
not.
Absolutely. not.
Probably
So
not.
I want the record to reflect of what you're saying, because now I have to take. And this is just the times, right? Pardon me for just sharing the frustration of just what the times are. But due to our constraints, we're gonna do what we can, and we may still lose folks, but at least we're doing the best we can to compensate in some capacity. Us going 4, 5, 6 is only staying on pace to still keep the gap between us and our closest competitor the same. Because if you don't at least do that, the gap will increase at their continued 4% in this case. That's not to say that they might not come in their next CBA and somehow, you know, they have deeper pockets than we do. They might, you know what, we're going to agree to 5% each year.
Yeah.
Then we're going to be back in the situation again in a couple of years.
Caesar.
Yes, sir, that's extremely possible. But if the city wants to go above what we're asking, we got no problem with that.
Right.
But we're just being realistic. Financial constraints are what they are.
Yeah. I could see it in your eyes that you realize where we're at. And that's the whole association needs to know that I'm for you. But I got to have a balanced approach in that. And I'm going to tell you this, if it gets worse, we're going to have to cut back on services. And I know the community is going to be surprised, but
Well, I do have a question for the city.
yes, sir.
How much grant money are y'all currently getting from the COPS program?
We
Not yet.
Not yet?
we put in for 6. We put in for 6 officers. I got a good feeling, but that's me. And I
Yeah.
think Caesar thinks the same. We if we get 6, we'll go to 40, we'll have 45 sworn, but we're not going to hire 6 the same year. Everybody here knows we don't have enough FTOs. We'll probably pick up 2 a year that we can afford. We're down 5. We're going to be having 6 more. So we'll probably pick up 2 a year from the grant at a 25% match. We're so hurting that we've asked our grant writer to tell him that we'd like him forego the 25% match, which I hope that we get. So,
I know sometimes they do waive it.
yeah, and we have, look what just happened with the rollback. I mean,
Yeah.
we sent that off with our grant. So hopefully we won't have to pay the 25% each year. So we'll be a little bit better shape, but
Because I know your closest competitor, Texas City, is getting Cops money for hiring.
They got 15 officers.
Yeah.
And if they got 15, we ought to be able to get 6 with our crime rate,
Should.
really. We're doing good with community policing. It's working. I haven't heard a citizen. In fact, one of the councilwomen, Yancy, said she's heard nothing but good. I've never heard a citizen say, please stop that. They're saying we want more of it. And, it's the way it is.
Good.
Quick question from the last meeting for the sake of conversation. Who was it that had their anniversary date? I know we're trying not to disclose names, but who was it? Was it who we're talking about? They had their anniversary coming up soon. Was it Thomason? Was it Human?
I don't
LaCroix.
recall who it was.
Was it LaCroix?
It could be.
Okay, because I see something kind of. funky
I'll
on my
see if I
thing.
can locate. I may have that
Okay.
paper with the.
For the sake of
seniority.
conversation, you have 2 officer 3s right now, correct?
One.
Who was that?
On the ninth, we had one unless someone hit their anniversary date. Since that.
Hit it at the end of the month. I just don't remember who it was.
Yeah.
I do remember we had one that was hitting it like on the 31st or somewhere
Somebody
very
that hit it
close.
since our last meeting.
Okay. I'm looking to see if I've got that seniority list. If I don't, then I won't be able to tell you for
No
sure.
problem. Miss Patty? Could I ask you a quick favor, please? Could you come here a split second? I didn't want to display their names. You give me that information. To look at on my table, I have different. They're both listed as 3. I gotta make sure they're both 3s and the rates are right, because somehow something got. You know what I mean? Something's wrong. The rate.
Okay.
Just confirm which one. Yeah. Please. All right, so. What we've agreed upon now is that. We're gonna go with. The ask was. The stipends remain the same. Yet. Grandfather the residential only and cease it moving forward. Due to the reasons why you guys have stated. And then the next thing would be. To now, let me just ask on that as far as the residential. Because there's really not much of an ask there. I know that some of you and most of you probably don't want to. It's not safe for you to live in the same city that you patrol. And that's understandable. But if somebody would be encouraged to do so or wanted to do so, just for sheer desire to do so. Should he or she not be allotted that opportunity? That's my only question.
It wasn't our idea to give it
Sure.
up. Y'all asked for it.
I'm just,
We're
I thought
not
about it.
willing to fight.
I thought about it more,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking, we're talking about current officers. We don't know if there's right now somebody that's living in our city that might be 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old that currently lives here that may want to be in law enforcement in the future and may want to still live where they are. Should they be negated that possibility?
I don't think so, but so if you're.
No, I'm just thinking, I'm just talking out loud. I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about $250 a month. It equates to $3,000 a year.
Yeah.
Is it worth to us an additional $3,000 a year? Should somebody want that benefit if they so chose?
They
I would
get, they
say
do get a
yes.
benefit, Caesar. They get a car if they live in the city.
So there is an
There
additional.
is a definite, it was a
Okay,
car bill,
okay.
but they get a car, that's good enough.
Okay, got it. I understand it. Oh, perfect. All right, so the next
We're just
question.
trying to
is-
help y'all. with your-
No. I'm just thinking out loud because I wanted to say that I was not aware that they got a car. I apologize.
If we have a car. I mean, if it's available.
All right. Well, that's fine. I think that's a great benefit. So that's fine. That's fair. Okay, the next question is. You've agreed to the 4, 5, 6. as is that your final ask?
We want the 5-5-5, but you.
Right, you prefer the 5-5-5. But if not, you're applicable to the 4-5-6. So we'll first. Basically, so the stipends being what they are, remove residency moving forward, and we're down to 5-5-5 or applicable 4-5-6 considering our situation. Okay.
All stipends staying the same with the exception of the residency.
Look at that. What that looks like equates to. Okay. So what that equates to, you already have what that sheet looks like, okay? You already have that as to what
Yes, we
that is. So you already have what that ask would be and what that would look like. Are there any other questions? Gus, I have a question to ask you. And Gus and Susie, actually, if you don't mind, if you guys could make yourselves available for this next question.
Yeah.
All right, so in light of one, AR charter, B, and I don't have it with me, don't know it by heart right now. What is our timeline as to when we would have to contractually, when are we looking at completing this? The CBA for police, and how does that fall in line with our current release of our budget? Our budget needs to be released when? I don't have my notes in front of me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm trying to fall in line with how our current CBA contract and our timeline that fits there. How does it equate to our budget so we can schedule our next meeting accordingly?
I believe our budget must be adopted by no later than September the 27th. But
Okay.
on our budget calendar, we are scheduled to have the budget adopted, if everything goes smoothly, by, I believe, September the 13th.
Great, good, with 2 weeks to spare. How does that
Susie?
fall in line with our contract?
The contract expires September 30th. Well, the last day of September.
Okay, so we don't have to do a new contract, we're in line. So now, as I understand it, if there's nothing further, then our next meeting should not be scheduled until after we're done with our budget workshops.
That's fine. John and I, or Officer or Corporal King and I, we're going to need to agree on an extent. We may need to agree on an extension, but we can do that offline, assuming it's okay with the union, of course.
Refresh my memory, what was our extension date?
Oh,
Since we moved the meetings and stuff, it changed that extension date, so
right, it did.
I believe it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's 60 days.
Yeah, it is 60 days. I just gotta.
For an impasse, and I want to say we're only at the beginning of what, close to 30.
We are.
So,
But you know, if Caesar's talking mid-September, that's
I just want to make sure, for the sake of things that we've agreed on and signed on in our timeline, that our now revised timeline is in line with our release of our budget. And I would ask that now that we have your final ask that you brought forward, that we can now formally take that in that we have a budget workshop tomorrow, that I'll update them on what that looks like. I'll present them this sheet so they can look at it and say, this is what we're looking at right now. Here's what that looks like. And then we can do this moving forward. I have to do the same thing with fire too. So I'm going to do the same thing with them and present them what those numbers look like.
and what date are you expecting to have a finalized budget, or at least
The budget would be final, our, as Susie mentioned, is September 13th. So we would need to meet at some point to get this all resolved well before that. So after, basically, before, probably a week before the 13th, we would like to have this final so we can have a kind of our ducks in a row. But after the end of our budget workshops, which our last one is scheduled for Tuesday, the 9th of August, followed by the tax meeting on Monday. Somebody check me, the 15th, I think it is our first tax meeting, followed by August 29th being, so anywhere between August 29th, we'll have a much better idea where we are by between August 29th and September 6th. If we could schedule our meeting between those dates, that would be the most realistic. Is that in line, everybody, with what I'm saying? Somebody fact check me.
That's fine.
September, so that's.
Susie, does that meet your schedule? Because that allows us to finish the CBAs during that week. I'll have a better idea where the budget is, and we can formalize our agreement moving forward.
That's fine.
Okay, in reference to the extension, Gus,
Yes.
I don't see why we can't do an extension. I don't see. I would say that,
Got it. Okay.
given the
I thought
timeline
there was
that's
something.
been explained by the city manager, that we could write up a 30-day extension past our 60-day limit, which would push us out to almost the end of September, if not beginning weeks of October, which should give us more than ample time to come to an agreement, which we can also entertain another extension if we need to. But that would be my recommendation at this point, would be to recommend a extension for 30 days past the 60 days.
Okay, I'll draft something and get it over to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
We'll see. What else do we have left?
We could have that discussion. I mean, I don't know his name.
No, we'll talk to him. Okay.
So clarify one more time. We're asking for 555.
That's your first round of asks, but
That's
you
our
are, you are
ask.
amicable to a 4, 5, 6.
We will be amicable to a 456. But we're gonna amend our ask if, based off what you said. If it goes 456, we'd like to keep the residency stipend moving forward for the new hires.
Oh, you want?
If it's 4, 5, 6 is
Yeah.
what they're saying. So
Yeah.
they're
If it's-
amending their ask
If
to
it's
say,
555, we're willing to give it up for the new hires.
Problem is, it's not gonna be a lot of people.
You never know, there may
I don't
be,
think that's my feeling.
there may be some young kids growing up in the community that's got.
they want to stay here
Want to stay here.
It's a good recruiting tool.
for locals
For
For,
locals.
for people that do live in the city or live close that are willing to move.
and they want to
in the
move.
city.
Maybe they're a young
Yeah.
family that wants to do that. Okay. Anything else? I've got another meeting coming up.
know
I
you do,
apologize for
know, I
time,
know.
but I think we made some progress. You now got your,
Or we
Ask
and we are
finalized.
in agreement that on the psychological support of
Yes.
officers, we are going to form a committee
right.
to
And
explore that moving forward.
if it wasn't clear before, please, Miss Patty, work with Chief Aragon. We talked about a 9-person group, maximum of 9, where we would have 3 civilian representatives, yourself and Chief being 2 of those 3. 3 from the CBA, police, and 3 from the fire, and then collectively decide, are you doing them together, separate, whatever you want to do, but to form a subcommittee to bring that forward. Well, no, actually, technically, HR would.
That's what I mean.
It's HR, it's technically, it would be HR would be the lead.
Yeah.
And the 3 civilian it's simple, it's Chief Merriman or a designee, Chief Aragon or a designee, and yourself. And then 3 from your side, up to 3. You don't have to have 3, but that way we keep it to a 9-person committee and you guys can go from there.
Could I say something about that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I know you gave out the time, not how would you say, the steps, but I hope that the association agrees or not agree. We need to find out what they really want first, and then we need to go researching. That's my feelings. What do you really want? And let's meet, and then go out and ask other cities what they're doing. Or we do it the other way and ask the cities what they're doing and then meet. What do you want to do?
Chief, that's why we're creating the committee, is to allow the committee to come up with a program that's.
So Patty doesn't need to do any research right now. That's what I'm saying. I don't think
Yeah.
she should. I think we ought to meet. I think we ought to meet.
Yeah,
too, and
it-
check-
in
My
order for a
recommendation is to
committee-
have a kickoff meeting and then go.
In order for a committee to be,
There you go.
in order for them to be successful, we need to give them a start point, and they all need to come together and come up with a plan forward.
That's what I
And
mean.
whether that be,
That's what I mean.
So,
Initially, it said, Caesar mentioned that we find out what other cities doing. I think we need to find out what we
Well,
do.
so
I
in this
think
case,
that,
start
I
thinking
think a
who your
committee
three
should be looking at what other cities are doing so that we have an idea. I think that's, certainly part of what they need to be looking at. But the idea of the committee is that they can meet and come up with a plan that's going to serve the officers and be beneficial for the city as well and the firefighters. So it's letting all those minds come together and finding what works and is going to benefit them.
So for the sake of time, Ms. Patty, you'll take lead. Chief, if it's gonna be you or somebody that you designate, then have that person in mind. We'll ask the same of Chief Merriman. If it's him or who he has in mind, that'll be the three. You start thinking of what three you would like, and then we'll ask Captain Martinez for fire, who his three would be, up to three. You don't have to have three. You just, it's 3 slots if you choose to fill them. Or hey, no, there's one person represents us, the 2 people, that's up to you guys. Just assign who they'll be, and then we can move that subcommittee forward.
I can have you a list of 3 names in the next 30 days.
Is that fair? And then you guys can take it from there.
So do we want to set a date now for the next final meeting? So
What I'll do is if
Get everything
I can, only because I don't have my schedule pending right now and I got a few things that I'm moving around. I'll ask Miss Jennifer, who is on the call. She'll reach out to the group. One thing we've narrowed down, it probably will be between August 29th and September 6th.
Okay.
During
I'm,
that,
I'm looking at possibly, just possibly, I have to check the schedules, but I'm looking at possibly August 31st, which is a Wednesday, or September 7th, which is also a Wednesday. Those are the 2 dates I'm gonna look at.
is that fair? We can start.
Yeah,
checking
yeah,
our
just
calendars.
get it to us as soon as possible because John hopefully will be back from vacation unless he caught COVID in Europe. But I'm working on 4 contracts right now and it's getting crunch time.
Well, I wanted to thank everybody. I apologize. I think we made some significant progress. Mayor, do you have anything?
No, I just wanted to, again, thank everybody for the participation. Certainly, this is a busy week for council. And we are everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So forgive me for my absence. There's a lot going on, but it sounds like we're making tremendous progress. So I look forward to the next one. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
All right, everybody, I'm going to save this document that I've worked on. I'll make sure I'll send it to everybody. If you don't receive it by end of day, somebody please pull my ear. And I will take it from there, okay?
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, guys. We'll be in touch soon. Have a great day.
Thank you.